everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. Today I'm doing my June 2023 wrap-ups, and it's very lucky this month I got to read 6 books, and I had a great reading month too. I had 2 5-star books and 4 4-star books. Before I get into my wrap-up, if you're watching this video, I always will appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and comment down below if you have read any of these books or have any recommendations for me for the next few months. My first book I read this month was a non-fiction memoir. It's called When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. And this book was amazing. I actually teared up while reading it. It is about a man who in his mid-30s, I believe, so around my age, and he is a very successful and very well-educated neurosurgeon. And he always was kind of like, when he was going through school, he was kind of split between being a writer, pursuing English, but then when he was like studying philosophy and that kind of stuff, he kind of became curious on how the brain works, and then that's how he became a neurosurgeon and had that career path. But what's super interesting about that is because of his background in writing, philosophy, and neurosurgeon, what happened was he was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of stage 4 cancer in his mid-30s, and he started writing about his life and his reflections on what it means to be someone that not only has cancer, but also someone that's a neurosurgeon who's in the medical field and also being a writer. So it's just very interesting because you read this book and you know he's not gonna make it. Unfortunately, he didn't get to finish this memoir before he passed away. But it's a very beautiful book. It's very raw, and it just talks about how, having a cancer diagnosis at any age, obviously, but especially when you're in your 30s, and just that reflection on your life, your marriage, your career, and your goals and how that changes. This book was really great. I gave it a 5, and I really recommend it. The next book I read was Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I gave it a 4 out of 5. He also wrote The House by the Cerulean Sea, or In the Cerulean Sea, and this book was really great. It was also about death, so that was 2 books I read that were related to death. And this guy, he's kind of this grumpy, not a great guy called Wallace Price. I believe he's a lawyer, and basically the book starts with he's a finance person, he's very savage, he's just not a nice person, not a nice boss, and then basically he dies. This isn't a spoiler because it happens like right away, and then basically he's sent to, he meets the Reaper, and he's sent to this place that's in reality, but there's the Reaper and this other person, Hugo, who owns this tea shop. We're kind of there to guide Wallace Price to the next step. So it's kind of this like limbo place that's in our world. So Wallace Price is a ghost and people can't see him, but Hugo and the Reaper can see him. And basically at the top of his tea shop on the 4th floor, there's this door that's on this roof, and Wallace Price is given the choice to consent to walk through under the Whispering Door. That's why the book is called that. And this book, even though it's about death and about being in limbo, had really cozy vibes. I really liked it because it kind of talked about death in a more like different way. It talks about how like you can live life better or more accordingly to your principles. And this book is really good. It is a adult book, however, it felt very like young adults vibes as well, given the death topic. The next book I read was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. This is a contemporary romance, and the game also had a very strong death theme. So because I read it back to back, it felt kind of the same, but obviously it's very different. We basically meet the protagonist, and she is a ghostwriter for a very famous author, and she basically is on a deadline to finish this book in the contract, and she meets a new editor who is obviously this handsome, hot man, and he's kind of being like a dick about it. He's like, you gotta finish this book, blah blah blah, and then the protagonist, her father dies, so she has to go back to her small town to go to her father's funeral and stuff, and then at her small town, she meets the editor that she just met in New York City, but he is a ghost and he's also dead. So basically, she also has this gift to help people who have died to finish what they need to do before they can go to the next stage. Again, kind of same, similar premise to Under the Whispering Door, but this had like a more romantic spin to it. I really enjoyed this book. It was a fun read. The characters were kind of funny. There's really great banter between the 2 of them. So I think if you love a book that's about books, small towns, and coincidental romance, this book is for you. The next book I read was There by Tommy Orange. I gave it a 4 out of 5. This book was a pretty heavy book, but I really recommend it. I think it's a must read. It's not too long, it's like 230 250 pages. It's basically, I really enjoy the style of writing because it has multiple viewpoints. There are 12 characters, and basically it talks about their lives leading up to this one event where this book ends at, which is the first inaugural Oakland powwow. And this book was just really crazy because it just has an emphasis on on Indians and indigenous people, how you can't paint them all as the same paintbrush, even though all from the same area. They all have different upbringings, um, different exposure to their culture, and also this talks about like what it means to be like Indian or indigenous. Like if you're some people are half Indian, half white, some people are full Indian, some are full white, but then grew up in a very indigenous community, and how they relate to that. I only gave it a 4 because this book is a bit choppy, but I think it's really worth reading. The next book I read was Big Swiss by Jen Beacon. I gave this book a 4 out of 5, and holy cow, what did I read? This book was so chaotic. The genre is literary fiction, so there's not really a plot so much as there are characters, and you have all these characters. And we basically meet Greta. She is a transcriber for a sex therapist, and basically she meets one of the clients because she recognizes the client's voice in a dog park, and then they basically have an illicit affair because the client is a gynecologist, and yeah, it's just a crazy lesbian affair. It's so ridiculous. It talks about trauma. It talks about unhinged behavior. It talks about living in a decrepit 300-year-old Dutch home. Yeah, it's very slice of life, and I don't know what more to say about it except give you the premise and then just buckle in for the ride. It's just crazy. The last book I read is I guess, a passion of mine. It's called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. I gave it a 5 out of 5 easily. It's about running, and I am an avid runner. And this book is just fascinating. It talks about how Christopher was a runner himself, but he always was prone to injury. So he also always went to massage therapists, physiotherapists, chiropractors, and they kind of told him that people are just prone to running. In America, 70% of runners get injured. But then Christopher McDougall then came across this tribe in Mexico called Terra Humura, and these people in this tribe can run for hours with minimal shoes and never have any injury. They don't even eat that healthy. So Christopher kind of lives and finds this tribe, interviews them, and kind of delves into about mechanics of humans, why we're born to run, and how our society has made us not good runners. And it also talks about the intro of how ultra marathoning came to be in the U.S. And like I'm not like that into the ultra marathon community, but I think if you were, it's kind of cool because it kind of profiles a bunch of like forefront ultra marathoners in the American like industry. So this book is really great. I really loved it. But I'm very curious, if you're not a runner and you read this book, is it as good as it was for me? I don't know. Those were the 6 books I read for the month of June. Thank you for watching. If you again read any of these books, please comment down below. I'd love to hear what you thought. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.